All right, away we go. It's the live nightcap / therapy session. Hopefully the last one of the season, even if they make the NIT. uh, so all right. Sorry, I was typing. All right. As always, brought to you by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get down to Dayton, Kentucky, Wednesday through Sunday. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off of your order, or they'll deliver from the app right to your house, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. So I know Selection Sunday is not going to be much fun tomorrow with the Bearcats not being involved, unless you're down with the NIT selection show. I've never watched one of those before, Aaron, but I guess we have to tomorrow.
Do they have a show for that?
I think they do. I think there is like an NIT selection show on like ESPN The Ocho. So we await their fate in the NIT tomorrow night. All right, let's get to it. Houston 69, Cincinnati 48. It was one of the worst offensive performances in the history of the program. They made 6 baskets in the first half. They were better in the second half, Aaron. They made 7. The tiebreaker being the layup by CJ Anthony in the final minute when the game was decided. They were okay enough defensively against Houston today. Not great by any stretch of the imagination, but when you play like they did offensively, you're not going to be a threat against the number 1 team in the country. They got down early. Honestly, I thought they did a valiant enough job hanging around considering how bad the offense was. And then Houston hit a little bit of a spurt after Sasser went down. I think that was the most frustrated I was all day. They see Houston's best player go down. They're down 8 at that point in time. And it honestly feels like kind of lucky to be alive, playing with house money. Like the other teams hit you in the face a bunch of times and you kind of ate it and you're still standing there waiting for a 6-0 run or, just a 3, a stop and a 3, something along those lines to kind of give you some momentum and get you kind of in the flow of the game, in rhythm offensively. It never happened. And this team just never found a rhythm offensively throughout. And Houston extended it early in the second. It looked like actually they got it to 15 at halftime. Cincinnati cuts it to 9 to start the second half. And it's like, okay, see a little life here. All right. And then you blink and it's 17. And from there, it was bad. It was bad. I'm sad. Chad. I just don't know why people feel the need to vent in my timeline. I'm swearing, chat at Aaron.
That's funny.
Hi, Holly. How are you? Good to see you. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I've got plenty, but go ahead.
It wasn't a fun game to watch.
It was not a fun game to watch.
Like you pretty much had to hate watch it. If I didn't have to spend time this evening talking about it, I probably would have turned that game off.
You've had a bad enough week.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, nobody in double digits outside of Landers. Nobody could shoot today.
And Landers was 3 of 13, 3 of 9 from 3, 5 of 8 from the free throw line for 14 points. It wasn't like he had
he shot enough times to get over into double digits. That was all that was.
Yeah.
You shoot 25% for the day, 21% from the arc.
Woof.
Um,
50%, 56% from the free throw line.
you're missing layups from 6 inches away from the rim.
1 inch. Victor missed from 1 inch away from the rim.
Why he didn't go down with 2 hands, I'll never know. It was just an atrocity of a game, and it felt so good yesterday that I don't know. I had talked myself into this one, and when it's 9-2, and then they go 5, and that wasn't even the worst of it. The 5-minute stretch where you don't score at all, that was the worst of it. And yet somehow, I mean, even at halftime, you felt like maybe they can get something going. They're still not being trounced. I mean, it was 15, but that 15, if they had done anything right before halftime, could have easily been 13 or 12, and they didn't get that either.
Yeah, they missed. I mean, the killer in the first half, you have 3 something on 1 fast breaks, and you get 0 points. The 4-on-1 where Micah just chucked it to one of the empty gray seats at Dickies Arena, that's when it was like, it's going to be a bad day. It's going to be a bad day.
I'm jealous that you didn't watch that game, Marcus.
Tony, Jason Williams is there to get clicks. I wouldn't. I like Jason. I think he's a good dude. I've you know what I've not seen? I've not seen Jason Williams at a practice. I've not seen Jason Williams at a press conference. He's more than entitled to his opinion. I don't think it's very nuanced, but more power to him. They gave him that platform to generate clicks for the Inquirer. Good for him. Ed, don't tonight. Don't. Wes mentioned something about Vic having other issues pop up as he was trying to recover from the ankle. And I wonder, although, look, man, he had 7 blocks yesterday.
He also
maybe it was just
he also hasn't looked good. I mean,
offensively, he's looked okay. Defensively, he hasn't been the same on the glass. He hasn't had the lift that we've seen from him. And I think the thing that was making him a lot better as the season was wearing on was he was learning how to be patient around the rim. And he had a couple tonight, like where earlier in the year, he took his time and got those balls in the basket. And today, like, he had a layup on the left side that he missed by 3 feet. Like, he was 1 inch from the rim and missed the layup by 3 feet. And then he obviously missed I don't know if he thought somebody was there and he was just trying to, like, take the sure thing. But it's confidence. And he's just not playing with a lot of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you watch that missed layup and you're sick about it because that's between that and the pass that went into the empty gray seats. You're just like, this is not our day. Nothing is going right.
Right.
I think was as surprised as the rest of us were that he was that wide open underneath the rim, and he Odioguama'd it.
Yep.
And
Bearcat 12, you can discuss the Big 12 all you want. I'm just not doing it until the season's over, and we don't know if the season's over. You're perplexed by something that had been in the works for 6 months, Tony. I don't. Do you think that, like, they just decided the night after the Xavier game? Oh, well, we're just gonna we'll get this Wes Miller contract extension done tonight. It had been in the works since the summer, since this time last year. Actually, been in the works for like 9 months. Tony says, I'm perplexed as John Cunningham extended Wes Miller after a loss to Xavier. That's like a participation trophy, it seems. Maybe that's perception, but it's not reality. this had been in the works for months and was, if you look at the contract, a symbol of the university committing to Wes and Wes committing to the university. The buyout for Wes to leave is exorbitant. The buyout to fire him is exorbitant. So both sides committed to each other.
Whoops. And as for Cincinnati being winless against Houston, Memphis, and Xavier,
no shit.
Well, I mean, look at the rosters. They're not the same.
They've been right there with Memphis every game they've played. They haven't gotten over the hump. They lost to Xavier by what, 2?
Yeah,
3 because there was a foul. Yeah, they lost to Xavier by 3. Houston has had their number. Houston's the best franchise or program in the country right now. So yeah, if you want to go with that straw man argument that Wes took a less talented team that is in the rebuilding mode and didn't get wins against teams that are in year 6, year 8, whatever. Okay. Yeah, sure. But we're here to talk about what happened tonight.
I agree.
Let's stay on target.
Lambig said one thing, Skillings went after an offensive rebound and put it in while everyone else just watched the ball. Love seeing that from him, but man, from what I saw, guys just weren't going after it like they had recently. I agree. I think Dan, just in that, Dan doesn't give up. And I think some of that is him trying to make up for some of the deficiencies he has because he hasn't played ball all of his life.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think maybe Carey mentioned this. This is one of their worst games of the year for sure. The only other game that was kind of like this was Ohio State, and that was the second day of a multi-day event. So I don't know if there's something to that. This team as a unit hasn't done a lot of they haven't been together for a lot of this stuff, played a lot of, yes, they're veteran, they're old players, but it takes something a little different to have an understanding of, all right, let's get out there and get back after it the next day. But I thought those were, in terms of just overall, like how it looked, NKU was frustrating as hell. They just had a terrible second half. I didn't think the effort was bad. I just thought offensively, they got out of sorts and played like shit. I wonder if there's something to that it can't be just a coincidence, right? That the second day of a multi-day event, like those are the 2 worst that they played all year. But look, Landers Nolly and David Julius didn't play well against the number 1 team in the country. Houston has a luxury of Marcus Sasser not playing well or Jarris Walker not playing well. Because
there's leaving the game for that matter.
There's 4 of them.
Right.
Roberts was outstanding. Shed was outstanding. Like, they have the margin for error to do that. And that's when you're that deep into roster construction, that's where you should be. Like, back when Mick was at his best, if Gary was having a bad day, Kyle could pick him up. If Jake was having a bad day, Jaron could pick him up. And Cincinnati right now, they have Dave and they have Landers. And against the best teams, there's not a lot of this guy's going to go out and get us 18 today because one of our other guys is not playing well. And Dave's got to play well right now for this team.
CJ Anthony had more points than Jeremiah Davenport. Yeah. Vic Lakhin.
Yeah.
1 less point than Dan Skillings. 1 less point than Micah.
Yeah. Nolly can't come back for another year. That's up to him. Vic, I think it's a confidence thing. I really do. Like, he's got to be a guy that has his confidence going in the right direction. And I don't know if they just didn't have enough time after he returned from the ankle injury to get back, on the horse. And Tony, you feel negative because it always seems Cincinnati sports gets the short end of the stick. This is year 2 of a rebuild. If your expectations were that they were going to beat the number 1 team in the country today, doing anything but playing their absolute best game of the season, I don't know what to tell you. There's some people that, as sports fans, I get the fanatic part of sports fan. But managing your expectations will make you understand things a lot better. Honestly, I believe that. What else you got, Aaron?
Got a house full of loud kids, man.
I'm not hearing them right now.
That's good. I'm hearing the baby gates crash, and I had to mute about 3 minutes ago because one was having a meltdown. It felt like right outside the door.
Fun.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I guess I feel good about the season still. I mean, again, Cincinnati played yesterday was maybe the best game of the season. I said it yesterday when we recorded the nightcap. I still believe it to be true. Unfortunately, you follow that up with a game against the number 1 team in the country, and it's
don't play well.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? There's a reason there's a number 1 in front of Houston. They played outstanding defense, outstanding offense. Well, they played good to great offense, not outstanding offense, but
it was a typical Houston performance. They weren't great over the length of the game, but they were great in spurts. And when they hit those spurts, they lock you up for 4 or 5 minutes, and they score 12, and you score 1. You know what I mean? Like, and they hit you with that twice a game, and when you combine them, it's a 25-2 run. And with the way that they play defense, it's really hard to come back from that.
You were out rebounded by 12. That's not great.
Not ideal. I mean, it started, the first 4 points for Houston were offensive rebounds. And I looked at my dad, who was up with us at Kelly's hospital room, and it was just like, here we go. Here we go.
Houston had 38 points in the paint to Cincinnati's 12. That's a giant disparity.
I think at one point it was 24-2 in the first half. Here, hold on.
13 second chance points for Houston compared to Cincinnati's 4.
That's first. That's second. Okay. At halftime, it was worse than I thought, Aaron. It was 26-2 points in the paint at halftime.
Man.
It's a miracle they were only down 15. That could have been a 30-point first half deficit.
I'm surprised there were only 6 steals by Houston, but Cincinnati was turning it over just on their own a lot. Only 8 assists in the game for Cincinnati.
Yeah, they make you play in isolation. We know that. You're going to have to do some work on them to soften their defense up. You're going to have to prove you can score in isolation, and then they'll guard the isolation a little better. But they know with their help defense and their principles defensively, it's going to go poorly if your main guys. That goes back again. You have to have Landers and Dave softening up their defense a little bit, and they didn't do it. They said at one point Houston had 36 points in the paint and Cincinnati had 37.
Yeah.
Woof. Ouch.
Nobody outside of the 5 guys that finished the game out finished positive in the plus minus or anywhere near positive in the plus minus. The closest one to 0 was Odie at minus 11, Vic at minus 12.
Skillings was 13. Micah was 15.
Yep.
Landers, again, this goes back to what we were talking. Landers was minus 24 and Dave was minus 20. You can't be
Davenport
minus 44 points with your 2 best players on the floor.
Davenport minus 23.
Yeah. It was a terrible time. And honestly, I think, Aaron, this goes back to how well UC played at Houston. Because they had been building to that. They had 3 games against Houston. They had figured out what they thought they could do that would work against Houston. That's why, in retrospect, it hurts not getting that win in the regular season because they shot their shot and then they put it on tape. And Houston said, I mean, I don't know if you noticed this or if this was just me. There were 5 or 6 times in the game Cincinnati had the ball with a defender expecting Houston's defense to do something they didn't do.
Yeah.
Remember the time Vic had the ball in the paint for it was right outside the paint. It had to be 6 seconds waiting for the double team that never came.
I thought he was going to get 3 in the key.
No, he was outside of it.
Yeah, I know. I looked at, I checked where his feet were.
He was just outside of it, but he stood there for 6 seconds waiting for the double team to come. Hi there. And it never came. And that's a sign to me that Houston did alter whatever they had been doing, like whatever Cincinnati had grown accustomed to from Houston's defense.
Yeah.
They mixed it up. They were blitzing Dave a ton and high ball screens, pushing him back and not letting him. I think in that game at Houston, I think he had 14 and 9. They weren't going to let that happen again. Instead, he had 7 and 5. So they basically cut his performance in half. Have a good one, Lambig. Thanks for joining. It's just frustrating. It was just a frustrating outing, frustrating performance all around. We were all hoping for a closer game, Tony. But when you don't play to beat Houston with Cincinnati's roster, you're going to have to play your A-plus game. They played their A game in Houston and lost.
I've also said, we've pointed out, we haven't been shy about pointing out that we haven't won the big games. We know that we haven't won the big games. It's not a secret.
You feel you need to point out a lack of adjustments. What do you mean by lack of adjustments? They've adjusted all season. They adjusted to not having John Newman. They adjusted to not having Rob Finney. They adjusted when Vic went down. They adjusted when they tried to use the press at the beginning of the season and it wasn't working. They adjusted when they were a terrible rebounding team and they got absolutely punked on the glass against Temple. And then they were one of the better rebounding teams in the conference the rest of the year. They adjusted when they were horrible defensively in November and had a stretch where they were the best defensive team for 3 quarters of conference play until Vic got hurt. The adjustments thing, it's a lazy narrative. You don't know how can you talk about adjustments not being made if you don't know the game plan and you don't know the adjustments? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I don't know. I'm not one for. I'd more so like to point out the lack of adjustments in football than in basketball.
But you don't know what adjustments were made and weren't.
It's true.
I mean, I think that's lazy, Tony. I think it's an easy thing for a fan to say when they're frustrated. Just say you're frustrated with the team's performance. Like adjustments equals run the make shots offense. That's the adjustment I would make every time. I don't know how to say your name. Brian? I don't know. Vic never seemed the same when he came back from injury. Yeah, like we talked about, I think that's just a matter of he never got back to that level of confidence that he had at the beginning of the middle of the season when he really started playing well. And he's going out there. There's a big difference in personality. Some guys are just irrationally confident. Like Landers Nolly is irrationally confident.
Agreed.
It doesn't matter what's going right, what's going wrong. He's confident.
So is Jeremiah Davenport.
Yes. He's got irrational confidence. Vic, you have to build his confidence. You have to get him in a groove. You've got to get him playing like he feels like he's – and what happened to give Vic that confidence early in the year is he went to Maui and held his own against two really good interior teams in Arizona and Ohio State. And then that got in his brain, okay, like I'm as good as these guys. I can do this. Well, then when he came back from the injury, he had a couple subpar games, and that impacts your confidence. And that has you out there kind of second guessing, pump faking ghosts like he did on that what should have been dunk attempt. Vic was on an all-conference trajectory. I mean, and that's why it's used, Andrew. Like Andrew said, the lack of adjustments argument is because you can't prove it either way. Right. That's why people say it. Because they don't know what the plan was to begin with, and they don't know the adjustments that were made. So it's easy to just say, I don't see this team making adjustments. Well, in order to see that, you're going to have to be able to identify changes in ball screen coverage, changes in how you defend off-ball screening. Do you switch? Do you stay? Do you have guys that you switch? Do you have guys that aren't allowed to switch? Do you change that? Are you playing high hedge? Are you playing ice? Are you playing drop? Like, unless you can point out all of the things that are happening and then what is changed when somebody's doing well in order to kind of try to shut that person off, then you don't get to talk about adjustments because you don't know what they are. That's why I don't talk about them a lot unless I physically see, okay, a couple games back, I can't remember which one it was, they were hedging. The opponent was hedging ball screens. And Cincinnati picked it apart.
Yeah.
And then after Cincinnati picked that apart for a little while, the opponent in the second half started dropping ball coverage or ball screen coverage. So then Cincinnati had to reconfigure their plan on the roll, or is the big going to clear out and let the guard go to work? Like, that's adjustments. If you want to talk adjustments, what did you see that was adjusted? What did you see that they were doing? What did you see that was adjusted, and why didn't it work? And then I'm more than happy to talk about adjustments because we have something to talk about other than just saying, why didn't they make adjustments? Or I don't think they made adjustments. That doesn't do the conversation any good because we don't know. You didn't make a point. You just said a thing. It's easy to say a thing, but if there's no substance behind it, then we can't discuss it. If you want to come at me with, I don't like the way that they attacked baseline against this specific defense was being played because it looked like baseline was there. And then if they attacked baseline, that they could have, dropped the pocket pass, you got an easy layup. All right, then we've got something to work with. But if you're just going to say Wes didn't make adjustments, it's not it's not a competent argument without substance.
Well, I
That's all
mean,
I'm saying.
for me, I know you can totally be frustrated. I'm frustrated with the loss. I get
Yeah,
that.
it's frustrating as hell.
I get that much. That said, like there's people who want to fire Wes, and that's all well and good, fine, whatever. But the reality is, he's under contract for 4 more years. Where
He's under
like
contract for 6 more years.
okay,
He's just not going anywhere for 4 more years because of the buyout.
so I guess my point is like, what are you? Why would I even waste the time or breath to say, let's fire what? Like it's not in what reality? Like he's not going
Yeah.
anywhere. So it's just I don't know. It's call us homers because we're not on the we need to fire West train, but okay.
He's not getting fired. So it does us no good to talk about that. He's not going anywhere. So you're talking about something that's not going to happen that doesn't do the product on this channel a service. It makes us worse because we're talking about something that's not going to happen.
I did think it was funny that before Lambig left, he said someone on the board just said they'd be fine with Reed and Sage leaving. What?
Yeah.
People are wild.
They-
we're gonna start all over again. We're gonna fire Wes and get rid of the entire roster and start all over again. What are we doing here?
Bo says they played so uptight to start the game. They played really uptight once it got to 9-2. Because, look, they know as well. The kids aren't stupid. 9-2 against Houston at the first TV timeout or whatever. You're in deep shit. Why? Because there's a good chance you're only going to score 50, and they've already got 9.
So, and I guess I kind of agree here, though, because I think I would love to see Cincinnati be the team, and they weren't at any point this season, I don't think, where they're the team dictating are the referees going to call physical defense or not. And
no, they were today.
I think they adjusted.
They were today.
I think they adjusted quickly to that, but I don't think that they were the ones who were out from the jump. I think Houston was, and I think Cincinnati.
I disagree there.
Mirrored, but I thought Houston was the ones playing more physical defense early on. And
yeah, and they got called for a shit ton of fouls.
They did get called for a lot of fouls. They
had 12 fouls in the first half to 7 for Cincinnati, and I think most of those, or a handful of those 7, came towards the end of the half.
Well, that was when the refs. That was when the refs started changing the way they were calling things. But yeah,
3.
While you're counting,
yeah, I mean, half of them were called towards the end of the half. It was 8 or 9-3 in fouls. Houston had fouled 8 times. Cincinnati had fouled 3 early in the game. Towards the end of the first half. The problem was Cincinnati wasn't hitting their free throws. It was 7 free throws in the first half.
Yeah,
you're down 15. If you make 5, you're down 10. And then you go on that was 9-4. They started the second half. Then you're only down 5. And then you're feeling confidence, right? Like you're feeling pretty good about yourself. And instead you miss 7 free throws and you're down 15 at halftime. And you turned it over 6 or 7 times. And you shot 20. You made 6 field goals the entire half. They had every opportunity in the world to make this a 38-34 game at halftime.
Sure. Yeah.
And they didn't take advantage of it. Again, that's the maddening part. It wasn't just if they would have done this, they could have been closer at halftime. It's if they would have done this, or they would have done this, or they would have done this, or they would have and it never clicked. It never clicked in the first half.
I think that's where where I said earlier that Houston's offense was good to great, somewhere in there, but not outstanding today.
Tony, you're going in timeout. Like, we're talking about Bob Huggins. I'm not. I'm not.
Where are the Bearcat 12 asked? Where are the
The NIT starts Tuesday. Tuesday and Wednesday are the first round of the NIT.
But he had another question. I can't find it now. But he asked where. Oh, there it is. Where are the Fire West people? They're on Twitter. They're in
On the message board.
The Bearcat Facebook groups. They've wanted to fire Wes all season, in the Facebook groups especially. But yeah, the message board. They've been there as well. I think that's also a good point, Andrew. Who would he have played if he just started benching people? That's an excellent point.
It's a good question.
We've also made that point here.
Yeah, especially John's out, Rob's out. Like, you potentially could have been 9 deep on this team at this point in the season, but because of injury, you're not. No, I mean, Tyler, this is how this works. The Fire West people started 2 weeks into their first season. Like
when he was hired.
Yeah.
And didn't have a roster, and when players were still leaving.
Again, some of this is to be understood. We are in a microwave society. Everybody wants results now. And if they don't get results now, they have a pulpit, even though they try to use mine most of the time. They have a pulpit to throw a fit, to have a meltdown, if you will. Be it their Twitter page, their Facebook page, the Bearcat Journal message board, my mentions. So it's essentially an echo chamber because nobody's going to fire Wes, and especially not John Cunningham, who hired him and believes he's the right guy to take this program back to where it needs to be. Tyler, nobody wants to look at that it took Kelvin Sampson 4 years to make the NCAA tournament at Houston.
We are an Amazon culture wondering why the things that we just ordered aren't here 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, when did you order it? 3 minutes ago.
All right.
Well, that Amazon truck hadn't even picked it up from the warehouse yet. No, you're probably right there, Bearcat man. The Fire West people started when Eric Martin wasn't hired, or Nick Van Exel, or whatever. Yeah, you're probably not wrong there. I don't know. What else you got? I don't know what else to say about this game other than they played like crap, and Houston played reasonably well. And when the number 1 team in the country plays reasonably well, and the number 50 team in the country plays like poop, you're probably going to lose by 20. I do want to say this, Aaron. It wasn't the most lopsided blowout in the conference tournament. It wasn't even the second most lopsided blowout in the AAC tournament. Houston beat 3-seed Tulane today by 40.
Houston played us today.
Or Memphis beat 3-seed Tulane today by 40. Did you see any of that?
No.
With about 4 minutes left, they took DeAndre Williams and Kendrick Davis out of the game. At that point in time, combined, those two had 47 and Tulane had 45.
Again, I just want to point out the difference in the rosters between Houston and Memphis in comparison with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They are not the same.
No. Well, I'll say this.
No.
There is a similarity to Memphis because they have 2 guys on their roster that are significantly better than anybody else on their roster.
Okay.
And right now, those 2 guys are playing like All-Americans.
Yes.
And Cincinnati did not have that.
Okay.
if Dave DeJulius and Landers Nolly were putting up 50 points a game
combined, sure,
then we'd be having a much different conversation about the game today.
If they were able to do that against Houston, yeah, you're talking about a different team. But
I mean, Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams did that last Sunday, a week ago tomorrow, and they lost to Houston on a Jamal Shed jump shot at the horn.
DeAndre Williams is a year older than me, and I graduated in 2019.
Yep. He is 26, Andrew. Talk for a second there. I'll be right back.
All right. Can we broach the topic of, is it better starting the Big 12 with most players coming back knowing what they are, or starting fresh in the toughest conference? I don't know. Obviously, you want to better the roster in any way that you can. That said, I think the staff has a pretty good idea as to what they have. And if what you have is not good enough for the Big 12, I'm okay with cutting the fat, I guess, as opposed to completely doing an overhaul on the roster. Or I'm sorry.
That doesn't work here.
I mean, correct. I'm okay with them getting rid of people as opposed to bringing the guys back if they know that they're not Big 12 ready, is what I meant to say. Let's see. Andrew said, I feel like I'm the only one optimistic about the future. I feel optimistic about the future, and I am not Brent Young, optimistic about everything guy.
You're negative about everything guy.
I wouldn't say everything, but I do feel optimistic about the future of the program. I feel good about what we saw towards the end of the season, especially against Temple yesterday, from Dan. And I think having an off season, especially if you have Newman coming back and he can kind of learn under his tutelage again, I think that would be nothing but a good thing. Also, bringing guys like Day-Day, I think Jizzle's going to be. I think he's going to be really good.
There needs to be. There's not a perfect formula. There needs to be a mix of young and old going into the Big 12. Like, yes. There has to be.
Correct.
You cannot just wipe everything out and go young. You cannot just bring everybody back and go old. There's already 3 new guys coming in, 2 freshmen and a junior college transfer. You can guarantee there'll be at least 1 spot open up. I would guess 2. I could see it be as many as 3. So that would mean 6 new guys coming in, 7 guys returning. 3 of those guys would be the freshmen, Skillings, Reed, and Tolentino. So you'd have 4 of the old guard. You would hope Newman and Nolly are amongst those. And then you have 2 for 3 spots, essentially. JD, Odie, and Micah. Pick 2 of 3. If it was 1 of 3, I wouldn't be upset. If it was 3 of 3, I think people are going to lose their fucking minds.
I think you can, even if you do only keep 1, I think you can still bring in some older guys through the transfer portal to where you're not bringing in just all young freshmen.
But you better be damn sure that what you're bringing in. Here's the other concern I have with the portal as we're getting a couple years into this thing. In most cases, it is starting to play out a lot like junior college players used to. And when I say that, what I mean is, in large, the guys that are in their first year, unless they're just an instant type talent influx into your roster, they're taking a season to get up to speed, And then you're seeing guys in their second year taking a jump. That's what they had hoped was going to be the case with John this year, that he had a year to get up to speed. And then in year 2, he was going to take a jump, and then he got hurt. I don't think they gave up, Jack. I think they got beat by a better team. I think they couldn't make shots, and when you can't make shots, it's hard not to fall behind by 15 points to Houston. They made 13 shots, 13 field goals. How many games, Aaron, have they had 18, 19, 20 assists? Not just field goals, assists. They made 13 shots today. I don't know how, like, they're lucky it was as close. They should have lost by 40, like Tulane did.
I guess that makes the 8 assist number even more impressive.
Yeah, 8 assists on 13. That's shit, man. Percentage-wise, they're killing it.
Man. Yeah, shooting 25%.
When you play like shit against a great team, you're going to get your teeth kicked in. And offensively, they play like shit. Jack, why do you love David Cohen so much? I mean, we love David Cohen.
We're seeing your tweets, Sports and Gospel. We got you.
Yeah, you're in there. It just wasn't there today. You're absolutely right. It wasn't there. Sometimes, hey, it's one of my favorite sayings, Aaron. Sometimes you're the bug. Sometimes you're the windshield.
Yep.
Today they were the bug. Splat. And it took a bunch of wipes to get them off the windshield.
Man.
It was a big thick splat when they splatted. You guys got anything else in the chat? Anything, any therapy stuff you need to get off your chest? And I feel bad putting Tony in timeout, but when you've reached the point of venting that you're bringing up Bob Huggins, kicking guys out of the locker room and taking their jerseys, it's time for a timeout.
Just breathe. Deep
breaths. Bearcat 12. What's the non-conference scheduling philosophy going forward? Some of that depends on something I can't really get into yet. And that's the future of MTEs. Those are the multiple team events. There's some legislation going through the NCAA that could change how high major programs handle their MTEs going forward. It involves NIL and some of the proceeds from the event going directly to your players if you're the host of the MTE. So there will be incentives to not do the big, 8, 16 team MTE events and hosting stuff on your campus to benefit your kids and your program. So if that doesn't go through, I think you would expect a strong MTE, a road game, or a home game coinciding with Xavier, whatever the Xavier game is, and then maybe try to get a neutral depending on where you feel like your roster is at that point in time. But you're also going to have whatever iterations of the Big 12 challenges that are out there that are going to add a game or two to your schedule. And then you're going to have 18 Big 12 games. So if you're already looking at, minimalistically, if you do 4 or 5 high major opponents in your out of conference schedule, you're looking at 25 or 24 of 31 games being high major opponents. That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. If you like realignment talk, Tyler, that is the BCJ podcast with me, Dave Simone, and occasionally Dan Simon on Wednesday nights.
Conference
right here on this
realignment.
channel.
Conference realignment specialist, Dan Simon.
Yeah. Jeff, I don't know how the challenges are shaping up right now. Don't know. I have no idea, Sports and Gospel. I'm trying to get to tomorrow. So I can't predict where things are going to be at July, August or so. They'll keep you updated. I promise. And when I get info, like, I'll let you guys know.
Yep.
It's just a matter of, when it happens, it happens. Anybody else?
We'll definitely have another. If they get in the NIT, of course, we'll preview the NIT here in the nightcap spot. If they don't get in the NIT, we'll have an easy show about just
the end of the season.
The end of the year. What
if
the
they
year
don't
was,
get in the NIT tomorrow, that's it.
What the year was, what it wasn't, and all of that. But
yeah, it's frustrating because this is a team that has a decent amount of talent. It's just not complete. It's not enough. It doesn't complement each other well enough.
Well, we don't even know that because we never saw the roster as assembled on the court. We never saw them on the court.
But the point I was going to make is what we certainly knew is, as currently constructed, if Landers Nolly shoots 3 for whatever the hell it was, 3 for 13, and David DeJulius goes 1 for 10, and they're playing the number 1 team in the country, you lose by 1, you lose by 20, it was going to be a loss. You weren't beating Houston with the way Landers and Dave shot the ball today. You weren't.
Right.
I don't know. The rest is kind of semantics at this point in time.
I don't know that you're beating anyone in conference shooting 25%.
Tulane. Still beating Tulane.
SMU.
Maybe. Well, SMU gave him a game the first time at SMU.
I don't know that I'd say Tulane. Tulane beat us once.
Tulsa, sorry. That's what I meant. One last time. Oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to do this as a group. Is everybody ready? I want you to go to your Twitter feed. Okay. Are you guys ready? This is going to be exciting as a group. This is going to be cathartic. I'm going to give everybody time. Okay. Ready? I want everybody to go to this account right here. @ American_MBB. Are we all there? Are we getting there? Give everybody like 20, 30 seconds to get there. American_MBB. And you see where it says following? Boom. Oh, that felt good. Oh, that felt good, boys and girls. One last time for the road on Tulsa and Tulane, and it was completely organic, and I didn't mean it. And I meant to say Tulsa, and I said Tulane. And now we have all officially unfollowed the American Conference in men's basketball. We did it in football seconds after the championship game against Tulane was over. We did it in men's basketball seconds or hours after the loss to Houston. But we did it. We did it, everybody. We did it.
Hooray.
We no longer have to put up with this shit anymore. I will say it was a pretty well officiated game today. I didn't really have any complaints in terms of the officiating today. Mainly because Cincinnati played like shit and none of it would have mattered.
That's correct.
And it was like 9-3 in fouls. What'd you stop sharing that for?
Did we need to stay on the American men's basketball page?
Yeah, I was making everybody aware of what we were doing. I wanted to give them a chance to see what it was we were doing. You don't have to put it back up. It's fine. I just wanted to make sure everybody enjoyed. This is therapy. It's a therapy session. And this was the end. You know, therapy sessions are 1 hour generally. And we're at 55 minutes. And this was the lesson at the end, is that as bad as today was, we got to end the day with unfollowing the American Men's Basketball Conference Twitter feed.
We did.
Hi, Tiger. You doing, buddy? All right, that's going to wrap it up. We'll be back with the nightcap tomorrow night, not of the live persuasion. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel for that. I'm sure Aaron and I will want to get that up as quick as we can. So there you go. That's a wrap to the conference tournament. We'll find out tomorrow night if they make it into the NIT. I hope they do. I'd like to see this team play again. Well, ask us that. Put that in the mailbag for Monday night, Bearcat Man. We'll see you next time. Thanks to Galactic Fried Chicken. This is the nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.